last year, when we had our official ceremonial opening, it was right there as moderator's address that I stood before the presbytery and cried out the pains that was in my heart. And the response I got was too much. Everybody was aroused. Everybody became so hooked up onto it. They wanted more, and it can't. We had it in March, and April was just a few weeks ahead. So as we finished from the church and came back though, to conclude with a short meeting, everybody said we need to form a committee right away. That's where I praise my colleague beside me so much that in that committee, it's like being the convener of the committee, he practically offered himself because of how he caught that dream. He said, wherever, whatever, he doesn't have enough time being a lecturer in the university, but whatever concerns that vision, he was ready to give his time.
I was going to ask you this. You know, it's one thing to offer oneself, but I want to do very little demonstration. Now, for instance, getting this, and then I'm giving it out to somebody. To who? Get this from me, please. Get it. Okay. So now that is me trusting that man to hold the two phones safe. Now, when you were the presbytery moderator, you trusted this man, or was it because he was the closest, or was it because something just informed you that Reverend Joel could run errands and could do this thing well? What informed you that he is going to handle this well? You did it in the presbytery level, and you did it in the synod level. You do not change. Why?
Wonderful question. He's expendable, like we have one of the books here.
Okay.
Expendable meritless. As you can use him and use him. But with him, the slogan is true that the reward of good work is more work. At almost like every assignment you entrust onto him, like you have put it in the safe hands that you can go back and relax and sleep well, trusting that it will be done. This is not the first assignment. He has done it several times in one committee or the other, leading the committee. Some that he is not made the leader, he almost will take it over because he hates to fail. So when that appointment came and the presbytery accepted, okay, Reverend Joel is the leader, I just could rest and know that God, this is a proof that this is a dream from you. You are taking us somewhere. So
Reverend Joel, I expected you to blush. You're not blushing and you're not smiling. What's happening? What would you say? Your boss is telling you this kind of trust and this kind of thing to the entire world. Reverend Joel is trusted, he's expendable, he hates to fail. What is the driving force?
in fact, even before he will say something, like you said, last year it was presbytery.
Yeah.
And he was the convener. And this year, it is no longer presbytery but synod. As I became synod moderator, they let us not leave this thing in the hand of the presbytery. It's still so young.
Okay.
Let's still take it over to the synod. And in doing it, he is still the convener at the synod level. So it is now even strengthening that trust the more. That is like if I go up to General Assembly, I will also be looking.
he's blushing somehow, but he doesn't smile when he blushes. so let's hear from you, Reverend Joel. How do you feel? Convener at the presbytery level, convener at the synod level, and this level of trust, this level of, the moderator believes that you can deliver. How do you feel?
Thank you very much. You have to develop trust in yourself for other people to also trust you. But basically, I joined one of the driving force for me to join the ministry, aside from knowing that I was called, was the desire to serve God in PCN. And I desired to serve God in a voluntary manner, where I will not be serving God because there is anything I really aim to achieve personally. If I was just telling somebody, I say, if I get tired, I will just cool down myself, go to my house and sleep. But as for serving God, anytime He just pushes me to do, I will do whatever thing He wants me to do. So the trust that people have in me is not something of today. I have developed it over the years. Basically, I don't always like to be at the forefront, but I always play that kind of assisting striker to always push somebody. In fact, if you elect me, it is now that I'm trying to push myself. Because of that, I discovered that those who I support, in fact, will be weakening me. Will be weakening me because they have been given a role that no matter the support I want to give, I cannot push beyond them, and it will limit me. Because before I used to stay at that level, let me just support, but you get to a point that I say, no matter how you want to push, because you are not at the arrowhead, you may not be able to push forward. That is when I started accepting responsibilities at that level. In fact, I remember even when we were in Pipeline, I was elected president, I declined. I said, God did not call me to be the president. But I was the chairman of every committee, making sure it worked. At the Pipeline level, they came to my house and begged me, they said, please, we want you to be the Pipeline president. I said, God didn't tell me that. And I was the chairman of the planning committee. I remember even what conference we took to Creektown. So I developed it. Then when I joined the ministry, if you know somebody that was called Reverend Obi, of course, of course, you know, my boss here is the one who even put the collar on my neck. So there is something that also links us together, not just something. So, but my first primary or beginning work in the ministry was with Reverend Obi. If you didn't know Obi in our church, then you have not learned anything about our church. You know how principled the man was. It will shock you that I was told the report he gave about me for my ordination. In fact, the presbytery did not believe it. Because even going to work with him was already a kind of a controversy. Will he succeed? Are you sure that he will go, two of them can work together? Will he? But when they told me the report, they saw confidential report that, in fact, they did not believe. In fact, I hear some people say, Obi said he cannot over his report. That time it was his report to me, even as a professional, I go to sleep. Just that I would not be doing the ordained functions. In fact, that is what he told some people. He said, your guy said he can hand over the church. That was the trust. If you know how principled he was, I can be flexible a little. The day he's in the church, I will be very flexible. The day he's not in the church, I hand over the church to me, I will be very, very principled as he. Because I know that whatever I'm doing there, they will go call and say, when you were not around, Reverend Joy went the other way and did it is even when he is there. So it is that kind of trust. And I also don't believe to fail. This church, particularly when it concerns the church, not just the church, even in my office. Very recently, I was given an award as one of the best 10 SUDs, just two weeks ago, in the University of Calabar, in the midst of fights that people. So I think that it is about God. And as children of God, we are not made to fail. We are made to succeed. So I see myself in that direction. And so whatever is committed into my hand, I will shun every other thing when they ask me with God.
Okay.
Even food, my wife can tell me, I will make sure that it works. So I think it is God. So that is the drive to make sure that, particularly when it concerns our PCN, because I've not seen any other church that is better than our church.
Okay.
So we must work it and make it to be excellent.
Okay, that was a deliberate attempt to lay some foundation to our discussion. I know that Elder Williams has a lot to fire. So, Elder Williams.
Yes, thank you very much. At least we have met the personalities we are talking with here. And we now have to get back
to business.
To the missionaries.
They
are the ones that brought us here. And we want to really get to know those missionaries. You tell us, some of them, tell us the kind of sacrifice they made and what impact they brought to our then communities and even now which we are carrying on.
I think I'd like you to start from the very beginning, how the letters and all of that was written. Okay. Mr. Moderator, sir.
Yeah. Going back to conclude the other one, whatever was or is the drive in us is like we share one small trait in common, that is a sincere love for our church. We are proud of our church. We love our church and want the best for our church.
I'd like you to speak up a bit.
Whatever little opportunity that is given unto us about this, our church, it's like we share that together, that we love the church. We are proud of the church and want the best for the church. So as God gives us the grace, we try to serve. And this service, like we are here for somebody or some people, is driven also by the example. The Bible will say a great cloud of witnesses. The example of some people who left their homes and came down. As early as early 18th century, our leaders were that educated to that level that they could scribble a letter. I think the trade in Europe, all the merchants that were coming into Africa and going back, the ones who were trading around Calabar area were doing better. And because those ones around Calabar were doing better, it was attracting more people to Calabar. And because of that, it made the leaders, our kings, to desire to have that culture, Christianity, education, and agriculture, and so on, part of the culture to be brought down onto us. And so they wrote at different times. King Eyamba of Creektown, or Duketown, sorry, wrote, and at another time, King Eyo Honesty of Creektown also wrote. All of them the same content in the letter, inviting the Foreign Mission Board to send missionaries into Calabar. Many meetings were held up and down, trying to cut things short, to find out how that would be possible. Some said no, some said yes. And then when it was finally yes, who will go and who will not go? Hope Waddell, an Irish missionary working in Scotland, was picked up to be one of them to come, and the other people said no, until finally they allowed him to come, and a team of some missionaries were released to come with him. They sailed out in 1846. It took nearly 4 months on the water. I was wondering why their own voyage was so long, because Mary Slessor set out in 76, yes, in August 8, and arrived September 11. So her own was just a little over 1 month. But the pioneer missionaries, led by Hope Waddell, they took almost 4 months on the water floating before they arrived here. However, they finally reached their destination on the 10th of April at 1846. So that's the day that the Presbyterian Church was born on the soil of Nigeria. And as they came, in a nutshell, their impact, one we will look at, is just now that English language is almost taking it over again. But somehow, the Efik language was given prominence because of the work, the impact of the missionaries. Because the missionaries interpreted the Bible into Efik, and interpreted the hymn books into Efik, and they learned the language, and they preached in the Efik language. So Since all schools that everybody has to attend, they were teaching in Efik, the books are in Efik, you go to church, school and church were one. If you don't go for choir practice in the church, you could receive the punishment in the school for not being in choir practice in the church. So all of them were working that synergy all together. And because of that, it made the Efik language now to become the lingua franca of the time. So it swallowed up every other language. The Kwas are here. In fact, they are larger in this area than the Efiks. But their language is swallowed up. In all their churches, or they use the Efik language now to communicate. Our parents who went to school in those days, they were all speaking Efik. When the church extended to Enyong and entered into Arochukwu, all of them there in Arochukwu were also speaking Efik. So it was the work of the missionaries. Other activities of the missionaries, they came in, they established schools, established hospitals, and we had a printing press, and we could carry such histories of being the first. We're having the first printing press, and having the first football being played on Hope Waddle Field. That is in all over Nigeria. First, and Hope Waddle, when it was erected, it was the first post-primary school in the southeast. And of course, it also carried a history for the whole Nigeria that it was the first comprehensive institution in the whole Nigeria because of all the things that they were doing. So all these achievements were by the missionaries. Many of them, they did a lot of things. Not to talk about one that came later, 30 years after the church's arrival. That expendable small girl who arrived at the age of 28. She was born 1848. The church arrived here 1846. She was born 1848. And then joined them in 1876. The church was at that point 30 years in Nigeria, while she was 28. That's when she arrived in Nigeria, 11 September 1848 of 76. So you see the work that that woman came to do. If you don't think about her, and if it does not challenge you, then your repentance as a Christian and being a Presbyterian is not complete. She did a job that, as some people like to identify with good things, there are some denominations who are even claiming Mary Slessor as at now. They don't know how he came and why she came and so on, but they are even now saying that Mary Slessor was their own missionary and so on, because she reached almost every corner. Sometimes when I read her childhood story, I said it's her childhood story that made her unique, different from others, because where other missionaries could not go and come back, Mary will go and come back. A lot of their rules as missionaries, everyone that came, because of the way they were dying, they had several rules to keep, to follow. You must do this, you must not do this, you must do this. Mary beat in fact, declined all of them, didn't bother about them. They filter your water, it was not her business. So she lived an African life. The only thing that made her a European woman was the tea that she was still taking. Every other thing, she was a complete African woman.
Mr. Moderator, when telling Mary Slessor's story, I want you to calm down. I want you to go deeper and tell us the story. Now, to the best of your knowledge, because these are stories we were not there, you were not there. Now, the main essence of this program is to ensure that we bring this sacrifice to the fore. Let people understand what the missionaries suffered, what they did. People will only think Mary Slessor came and stopped the killing of twins. But there are other things she did. There are sacrifices she did. And when she was sick and went back, and how she came back.
More than 2 times.
Yes, I like you to go deeper and touch this story properly, the way you can.
Sometimes I am challenged by the way some of us take our postings. Even now that I'm synod moderator, some people have asked me, where are you going to? I say, I can't tell where I'm going to. And I don't want to influence where I'm going to. Always for me, the officers in the office are God's mouthpiece and God's heart and God's hand to decide where I go to. So I don't speak to anybody about where I go to. You see how God could send people and they accept to come in suffering, accept to take such decisions. The story that moved Mary Slessor wasn't even a pleasant story. It was the story of David Livingstone's suffering, missionary suffering in Africa. And he was going here and there and so on. And when it finally happened that the news came that David Livingstone was dead, it broke Mary seriously, broke her down seriously. And the crusade that were taking back, writing magazines and so on, telling the stories of a mission work in Calabar, it moved her. She was the eldest daughter in a family of father, mother, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. The father was a drunk, so she was beginning to be built in that character of hard life. They lived in Dundee for some time and relocated, Aberdeen for some time and relocated to Dundee, thinking the man would repent and live another life. Well, as he went there, he took a job at the mill, but after a short time, he was laid off, and life went back to his drinking. And Mary was always defending the mother against the father's bullying and so on and so forth. The mother name was also Mary Slessor, the same like the daughter, and she was very good in the fabrics, making fabrics. So she worked in the mill. And Mary started her work in the mill only at the age of 11. She started work. She was a rough girl. She was very terrible before she gave her life unto. So her childhood life trained her with hardness. But she had that kind of common sense. Before she came, this book said she was trained for 3 years to come and be a teacher.
Okay.
As she comes to come over here and be a teacher. But when she came over, after some years, she said that the training didn't give her some vital aspect. That would have been practical aspect. And some people concluded that whatever the training would have given to her, they definitely knew that the training couldn't have given her the skills on how to build houses, how to weave native mat, how to do the clay and build the walls of a house, or how to do concrete with the little cement that she finds around, and that training couldn't have given her that. I think some of us, I looked at it, even when she asked for Hope Waddle to be built, to be made that kind of a comprehensive school, was also because of that her complaint that that training given to her should have included many other practical things, aspects that would have made her to be exactly what she came to meet here practically. So she was just using her common sense and her stubbornness that her childhood days trained her to be, and she was doing so many things that other people could not do.
Okay, there's this story you told yesterday. For those of you joining, this is day 2 of this Pioneer Missionary Day celebration. Yesterday we had Creektown. So I'm going to ask the moderator to tell us that story again. You told us when they were on water, and what was that? Was that a fish?
Hippopotamus.
Okay. So I'd like you to tell our people what happened there.
They were on a journey going to